And this administration today, here and now, declares unconditional war on poverty in America.
My fellow Americans, Americans always have cared about the less fortunate, and I'm sure it'll deeply gladden the hearts of many of you to know the kind of progress we've made during the past 6.5 years in helping the poor.
Everything we've done over the past 6 years has been in pursuit of one overarching goal: creating opportunity for all. What we've long understood, though, is that some communities have consistently had the odds stacked against them.
Poverty is one of the most debilitating conditions that someone can face. It affects almost all facets of life, including education, health and healthcare, and housing. Most people agree that tackling poverty is incredibly important. What is more difficult to determine is how to do it. Some individuals in the fields of academia and nonprofit work have made that determination.
I work for the Center for Community Change, and the organization works to empower low-income communities and communities of color in the United States so that they can advocate for better communities and for their own interests, particularly with a racial and gender equity focus. So we work with community organizers all over the United States on issues that are important to those communities. And so my role, I am a public policy fellow at the organization. So I recently completed a PhD, and I'm working at the CCC providing policy analysis support, research support to kind of translate policy issues for broader audiences and to help communities understand what's going on here in DC and what that might mean for them.
First Focus is a national bipartisan kids advocacy group with the goal of making sure that children and families are priority in federal budget and policy decisions. And so we work on everything from children's health to nutrition, making sure that children again are prioritized in the budget, making sure that children have access to health insurance, a good education, kind of all the major issues you can think of affecting kids.
My name is Clayton Rosati. I'm an associate professor of media and communication at Bowling Green State University. My PhD is in cultural and economic geography, and I'm interested in issues around poverty, in culture industries, and the production of ideas about poverty and wealth, and also something called development communication, which is about social change and how we can best and most democratically advocate for social change.
So first of all, government programs play a crucial role in lifting people out of poverty. So many of the programs that were created under the Johnson administration through the Great Society over the years have had significant impacts on poverty reduction. Every year, safety net programs like SNAP, TANF, Medicaid, Medicare, these are all government programs that keep millions of people out of poverty, families, children, the disabled, the elderly.
So one of our big areas of focus is making sure that that the U.S. prioritizes reducing the number of children living in poverty. You know that poverty is particularly harmful for kids and can have really long-lasting effects. So it could really harm their healthy development and their chances for educational attainment and achievement. And so one of our kind of overarching goals is to reduce the number of children living in poverty within the next decade by cutting the child poverty rate in half.
I think we're pretty horrible on poverty for a wealthy industrial nation. And I think a lot of the reports that we're seeing from the UN about America's poverty rates, it indicates just that there are some places in our country that have what people might call third world level poverty.
One of the reasons that our levels of poverty remain so devastating is that millions are not receiving adequate aid through these government programs. This is often a result of underfunding of certain key programs that reduce the effects of poverty. One program that has been supported by Republicans and Democrats alike is the Earned Income Tax Credit.
So tax credits for families, it's some of the best ways that we combat poverty in this country. So families who file taxes right can receive a tax break. So the Earned Income Tax Credit and the Child Tax Credit are two programs that really effectively reduce child poverty in this country by giving families, right, a tax credit annually. And, you know, those calculations are based on how much, right, the family makes. And so we could definitely be making those credits more effective by ensuring that they reach the lowest income families. Well, we often call that so for the child tax credit, making it fully refundable, meaning that basically all families, right, who file taxes, even if they don't have any federal income tax, could be eligible. And there's also ways to make those tax credits more effective by perhaps having families be able to receive them monthly, you know, so that they could keep up with monthly costs such as rent and utilities.
What this means is that tax credits give money back to low-income individuals through tax breaks. The idea is similar to the premise of basic income.
The idea of the basic income is that everyone earns a certain amount of money every month or every week or every year. And this is an idea that's gained more momentum in the last, and popularity in the last, 5 years or so, especially in what we might call the developing world, in emerging economies and so forth. So Kenya has been experimenting with some of these ideas. Even Canada has been experimenting with providing people with a certain base income. But it's not a new idea. It's an old idea, and some people prefer it to the really sort of draconian and disciplinary approach to welfare. So this way, you just treat people like human beings. They have an income, and there's no supervision of what they're shopping for and all of that stuff. And so the famous philosopher Michel Foucault reportedly, favored this because of it just provided much more freedom for people who would otherwise be under the thumb of all of these regulatory or all of this scrutiny from these agencies, basically.
Negative income tax is a type of basic income system that is meant to address the most common criticism of the typical basic income structure.
So, a negative income tax is essentially responding to the problem that, not everybody needs a basic income. And so Donald Trump doesn't need a basic income payment, for instance. And so the people who are earning below a certain threshold would therefore get money back from the government on their taxes, something like a basic income. But people who earn over that would pay, income tax just like normal. So this is sort of like a compromise between welfare and a universal basic income.
A negative income tax would give low-income individuals needed money to take care of all of the basic expenses of life, and would serve as an efficient, cost-effective, and economy-boosting solution to poverty nationwide. But the idea is not without its critics, who would argue that such a system would be too expensive to maintain and would discourage work amongst low-income individuals. It is undeniable that this system would cost more money than what is currently allocated to financial aid and assistance programs, but this does not make the cost unreasonable. The United States, in percent of gross domestic product, spends less on aid programs than most countries in what is considered the developed world, including the United Kingdom, France, and Canada. If the percent of money put towards financial assistance programs was equal to one of those countries, a negative income tax system would be well within our budget. The benefits of the system are wide-ranging. One of the benefits is efficiency, and there are multiple pieces of evidence for this type of efficiency. The charity Give Directly found that when they gave money to low-income people, the most common expenses were on food, housing, and healthcare, with almost negligible spending on tobacco and alcohol. Multiple studies published by NPR and the New York Times confirmed this spending trend. Additionally, the nonprofit organization Innovations for Poverty Action found that common uses of direct monetary aid by low-income people were buying more nutritional food, starting businesses, and investing in their children's education. Aid through money directly therefore accomplishes what current programs do with far less need for regulation. Although negative income tax has not been attempted beyond a study level, basic income programs have. All around the world, there have been examples of basic income that show the success of direct monetary aid. In the Namibian villages of Otjivero and Omitara, $100 Namibian were given to every adult resident every month. As a result, over the course of 3 years from 2009 to 2012, crime rates decreased by 42%. In the Indian city of Madhya Pradesh, instituting a basic income system for 1 year resulted in the number of new businesses doubling, the total time spent in school by children tripling, and the personal savings amounts by families tripling as well. In Iran, a basic income system called the Energy Subsidy Reform Program was instituted nationwide in 2011. The system was brought to an end in 2016, as the majority of citizens had the opinion that it was discouraging work. However, a study of the program conducted by the Iranian government not only found that the number in the workforce had remained constant, but also that the number of new businesses made during the existence of the program exceeded any other period in recent history. But beyond this evidence, there is a moral benefit to the negative income tax system when compared to our current programs.
I think the merits are that, again, it treats poor people like human beings. It recognizes that the economy is in general rigged, that you can't have everyone be a millionaire or even a 100,000-aire in our world, and especially not in our country. It acknowledges that inequality is built into our system, et cetera, and it creates more economic stability in certain ways. The more money people have to spend, the stronger our economy is. And this is just a basic principle of avoiding what are called crises of underconsumption.
Speaking up and saying that this is a priority for us, this is important.
Students are really at the backbone of social change in the United States. So if you look at many different social movements throughout history, students have really been at the forefront. The civil rights movement, until now we see kids involved in the DACA fight and Black Lives Matter and the recent Parkland efforts for gun control. And so I think that these examples really show that students, even if you're not yet of voting age, can play a big difference in fighting for what you believe in, showing up, getting organized, and then if you're a United States citizen and you're 18, registering to vote